We're facing an inflection point in history. One of those moments where the decisions we make today are going to determine the future for decades to come.
We now have direct evidence that Joe Biden took direct payments from his brother Jim Biden in a complete money laundering scheme, and this links him to foreign investments.
Hamas has released 2 American hostages.
Cleanup continues tonight, just north of Pueblo, where investigators now believe a broken rail caused this train to leave the tracks, spilling coal and debris onto I-25 Sunday.
The rails are made of high-quality steel, but occasionally there can be an imperfection in the rail.
Gary Wolf has been investigating train derailments for more than 40 years and says broken rails are the most common cause he sees.
They start cracking out the rail. Eventually it results in the rail breaking apart, and obviously you lose continuity in the rail surface, and the wheels go down and hit the ground.
Urgent manhunt at this hour in Maryland. The suspect is a father. The judge had presided over a divorce proceeding, giving the mother custody of the children.
The judge, who was found in his driveway last night with multiple gunshot wounds, 52-year-old Judge Andrew Wilkinson, was pronounced dead at the hospital. His death was ruled a homicide.
Police suspect Pedro Argote shot Maryland Circuit Judge Andrew Wilkinson multiple times, just hours after the judge gave his estranged wife sole custody of their 4 children during divorce proceedings.
Today, we are becoming the first state in the country to take an action like the one that we are announcing right now. At the beginning of my term, my administration worked with our partners in the legislature to get hostile foreign entities out of Arkansas. I was proud to sign Act 636, sponsored by Senator Johnson and Representative Vaught, banning foreign parties from 9 enemy countries from owning agricultural land in Arkansas. And today, we are acting on that law. I'm announcing that Syngenta, a Chinese state-owned agrochemical company, must give up its land holdings in Arkansas. Syngenta owns 160 acres in northeast Arkansas, which it uses primarily for seed research. The company that owns Syngenta, Chem China, is also on the Department of Defense's list of Chinese military companies posing a clear threat to our state. Seeds are technology. Chinese state-owned corporations filter that technology back to their homeland, stealing American research and telling our enemies how to target American farms.
Border Patrol has dropped off more than 18,500 migrants into San Diego over the past 5 weeks. Now tonight, I went to Oceanside, where 1,400 migrants have been dropped off, and local nonprofits and city governments are stepping up to help.
Oceanside's deputy mayor says the city has had very little notice from Border Patrol before migrants are dropped off.
Sometimes an hour. And with that, it's fallen on us to try to figure out how to deal with that. And for me, it's frustrating as a city leader. We don't have the resources to deal with those issues.
And now Border Patrol has dropped off more than 5,000 migrants onto the streets of San Diego just over the past week.
The break into the jail 3 weeks prior to these 4 breaking out, it seems to me that they have a lot more information, that some guy clad all in black with a mask brought power tools in. Is that accurate? They believe it's actually power tools he brought in, and do they think they were the tools these guys used to get out?
Yes, I'm hearing the same thing that you're hearing. Like you say, 3 weeks ago, amazing. It's been a steady buildup of incidents at that jail, including what you just mentioned, a break-in. We know that contraband was brought into the jail. The community has been bracing itself on the what's next with that, because, that's just a crazy situation. But like I say, it's been a steady buildup. Officers have been arrested for placing contraband into the jail. Within the last 24 months, there's been an officer death, an inmate death. The conditions of that jail on the inside have been deplorable. Like you said, we found out that there were less than 10 officers on duty in the entire jail. There's some indication that the officer that was on duty for that pod reported hearing a noise. We're hearing the noise, but because he was by himself, in that space, didn't want to enter the space, and it took several hours for the SWAT and the rest of the response teams to get there to see what happened.
Closer to home, auto suppliers are beginning to be crushed under the growing weight of the United Auto Workers strike. According to the Vehicle Suppliers Association, layoffs have increased by about 10% week over week, with now 39% of members having to lay off employees.
Anywhere from 7 to 10 jobs are directly linked to each one of those assembly plant jobs or OEM jobs. So this ripple effect continues to grow every time there's a work stoppage.
360 more Ford employees will not be reporting to work today as the company continues to lay off people.
The Biden White House admitted on Thursday that it should not have posted a picture showing the faces of members of an elite U.S. Army Special Forces unit on assignment in Israel when it posted a photo of them in uniform shaking hands with the president. A White House spokesperson told Fox News, quote, "As soon as this was brought to our attention, we immediately deleted the photo. We regret the error and any issues this may have caused."
Due to increased tensions in various locations around the world, the potential for terrorist attacks, demonstrations, or violent actions against U.S. citizens and interests, the Department of State advises that U.S. citizens overseas exercise increased caution.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The risk of conflict and chaos could spread in other parts of the world, in the Indo-Pacific, in the Middle East, especially in the Middle East. Iran is supporting Russia in Ukraine, and it's supporting Hamas and other terrorist groups in the region, and will continue to hold them accountable, I might add.
The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals.
All Ukraine is asking for is help for the weapons, munitions, the capacity, the capability to push invading Russian forces off their land, and the air defense system to shoot down Russian missiles before they destroy Ukrainian cities. Let me be clear about something. We send Ukrainian equipment sitting in our stockpiles. And when we use the money allocated by Congress, we use it to replenish our own stores, our own stockpiles with new equipment. Equipment that defends America and is made in America. Patriot missiles for air defense batteries, made in Arizona. Artillery shells manufactured in 12 states across the country, in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Texas, and so much more. You know, just as in World War II, today patriotic American workers are building the arsenal of democracy and serving the cause of freedom.
Just now this morning, the UN voted on a Security Council resolution to call for a ceasefire, which was vetoed by the United States of America. Now, there's a couple of reasons why this could have been vetoed, including that there were some Russian amendments that were calling for an immediate, durable, and full ceasefire and to stop attacks against civilians. And there has been a pattern of vetoing or rejecting resolutions when Russia is involved. The president's public position comes as his administration internally is allegedly cracking down on the mere mention of peace in the region. Huffington Post reports that State Department officials issued an internal warning against the use of terms de-escalation, ceasefire, into violence or bloodshed, and restoring calm in official communications.
Biden is calling on Congress for $100 billion to support Israel and Ukraine, saying that Hamas and Russian President Vladimir Putin both want to annihilate neighboring democracies.
It's a smart investment that's going to pay dividends for American security for generations.
The Iron Beam reportedly has a range of between 7 to 10 kilometers. Israel has said it can focus the beam to the diameter of a coin within that distance. The Iron Beam fires lasers that can reach energy levels of about 100 kilowatts. For context, that's about 24 grams of TNT exploding every second. Or almost 1.5 kgs of dynamite every minute. That's the amount of energy coming out of the Iron Beam.
So I want to tell all those protesters,
in Brussels, in Paris, in Berlin, in London. You can protest, but be prepared because they will come for you. Israel is fighting its war, but it's not only our war. At first, it was Al-Qaeda, then it was ISIS, now it's Hamas. We need to eliminate the evils we've seen the evils and the atrocities of Hamas. I cannot understand how people can support Hamas after everything we've seen.
Coming on the air, we've gotten confirmation from the Israelis, officially from the Prime Minister's office. We have the two names. It's Judith Tai Rana and Natalie Shoshana Raanan were released from the hands of the terrorist organization Hamas. It says they were kidnapped during that terrorist attack on 07/10/23. It also says they were taken to the border of the Gaza Strip. At this moment, they are on their way to a meeting point at a military base in the center of the country. I'm assuming that's the center of the country of Israel, where their family members are waiting for them. The government of Israel, the IDF, and the entire security establishment, the statement says, will continue to operate with the best of their abilities and efforts in order to locate all of the missing and return all of the abductees home. And at this point, that number is still 11 Americans missing in the area.
Part of the battle group, not only in terms of the air wing, the ability to project force, but each one of those carrier battle groups has about half a dozen destroyers with it that can provide air defense coverage and augment the air defense coverage that the Israelis can provide in their north. The difference of a war with Hezbollah versus a war with Hamas is significant because Hezbollah's arsenal is so much more sophisticated. Long-range precision-guided missiles that can hit Israeli infrastructure, can take out airports, can take out power supplies, can take out fuel depots, can take out civilian populations. So it's a very different enemy. That said, I think you'd have to look at this as Iran playing chess, not checkers. If they were going to involve Hezbollah, it would have made a lot more sense to launch that attack 10 days ago on the same Saturday morning that Hamas launched its attack, or within 24 hours when Israel was on its heels, rather than now. Israel's entire military is spun up. Their reservists are all called up. They are loaded for bear right now and ready for anything. So the idea that Iran would now unleash Hezbollah is perhaps not quite consistent with the way the Iranians have played this game before.
So far, 5 shipments of U.S.-made weapons have arrived in Israel. More are on the way. Munitions, interceptors are landing in the country by the plane load. The U.S. is giving Israel free rein on how to deploy these weapons, unlike the ground scenario inside Ukraine.
Officials announced a U.S. military base in Syria was attacked by drones. They say this follows other drone attacks over the past few days against the U.S. in Iraq.
The crew of the guided missile destroyer USS Carney, operating in the northern Red Sea earlier today, shot down 3 land attack cruise missiles and several drones that were launched by Houthi forces in Yemen. This action was a demonstration of the integrated air and missile defense architecture that we have built in the Middle East and that we are prepared to utilize whenever necessary to protect our partners and our interests in this important region.
The drones and the missiles were apparently headed towards Israel with no threat to the destroyer itself. So let's really stick with that one. That's incredibly significant. The United States military has now officially used its firepower to protect Israel, effectively serving here as an auxiliary air defense system for the nation of Israel.
If I were president, Israel would not have been attacked. It was viciously attacked. It would not have been attacked. Ukraine would not have been attacked. You take a look at what's going on throughout the world. The world right now is a mess. It's a mess, and it's a very sad day. Thank you very much.
Will you visit Israel, Mr. President?
I may go. I haven't thought of it, but I believe in letting them do what they have to do. They have to straighten it out. What's happened in Israel is all of those people dead. Would have never happened, ever. Not even a chance. Even the Democrats admit that if I were president. Thank you very much.
We're now also seeing alleged involvement from other countries. North Korea denies arming Hamas fighters with weapons, but reports show it was North Korean missiles that misfired, causing Tuesday's deadly hospital explosion. And the Department of Defense releasing new video of more than 180 intercepts of U.S. warplanes by Chinese aircraft over the past 2 years, with military officials calling this beyond concerning.
Are we okay?
Yeah, we're okay. But this is, well, you're getting uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable as well.
This is, oh my God.
Yeah, he's
Pentagon says these risky maneuvers are part of a concerning trend by China. There have been more than 180 intercepts in the last 2 years, more than in the entire past decade.
Okay, that's within like 5 meters of the wave.
Oh yeah, no, he's probably 20 feet off our wing, max, maybe 10 feet off our
Video
wing.
capturing the actual moment when the bow of Chinese Coast Guard ship 5203 hitting the starboard of Filipino supply boat MV Uniza May 2. In another video, those on board Uniza May, near collisions have become far too common in this part of the West Philippine Sea every time Philippine vessels carry out supply missions for troops stationed at the BRP Sierra Madre. Chinese and Filipino vessels have sailed dangerously close to each other, sometimes just a few feet apart. But this is the first time their recurring sea confrontations led to not just one, but 2 mishaps.
New reports that up to 6 Chinese warships have been stationed in the Middle East over the past week amid rising tensions between Israel and Hamas, of course.
This week, the U.S. government releasing a new report on unidentified anomalous phenomena, what most people know as UFOs. The report found that between August of last year and April this year, the office tracking these sightings received nearly 300 reports. Some of these incidents are still under investigation because they could pose a security threat to U.S. military operations, especially aviation.
Generally speaking, the American people don't trust what they see, right? That's why they go to alternate sources.
I fancy myself a hardcore conspiracy theorist. Birds are government drones. Antarctica isn't made of ice. Climate change. Planes disappearing. JFK. The royal family. The Denver airport. Depending on what news articles I saw that day, the pandemic. All fall under the category of things I could and sometimes do believe in.
Certainly, there's some of it that we know was misinformation since it was a parking lot that was hit. One of the most egregious parts of this whole story is the New York Times carried a photo of a bombed out building that was not the hospital in question. I was in New York at the time at the airport. I saw those headlines. I was horrified. The picture in my mind was instantly that the Israeli Defense Forces had bombed the hospital. I should hasten to add that you just mentioned this Al Jazeera investigation. We don't know with certainty what exactly happened. We don't even know what the death toll was. You know, as of yesterday, there was a European source who said it was just 10 to 50 deaths. U.S. intelligence said that there were somewhere between 100 and 300. But I think that the lesson here is that all of the things that the mainstream news media and governments, particularly the European Union, had been saying about citizen journalists and about social media posts, claiming that false news travels faster, that there's no so-called guardrails for citizen journalists on social media, in contrast to news media where there are supposed guardrails, or in contrast to pre-Elon Musk Twitter where you had guardrails. Well, here was a case where there were no guardrails on the part of the mainstream news media in attributing it to the Israeli Defense Forces. And even if that were to turn out to be the case, they did not have proof at the time.